Welcome to Brutiful Metal Radio.
Hey metalheads, welcome back to another exciting edition of Bullshitting with Bob. Today I have with me Steve Bello from the Steve Bello Band. Say hi, Steve.
Hey man, what's going on?
So how are things going up there where you're at?
Well, as far as the weather, it's starting to cool down a little bit. Everything else is going pretty good, all things considered, you know?
Right on. Yeah, we've had an unseasonably warm summer this year, haven't we?
It's been definitely, as far as in New Jersey, I think it was the hottest on record.
Wow. Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, like hitting hundreds, and I mean, I ain't complaining. You know, the heat I can tolerate, the humidity I can't, but, you know, I ain't complaining.
I hear you. I'll tell you, I didn't think I'd be ready for winter as bad as I am right now.
I hate winter.
Well, where we're at, we don't get all the snow and everything. It just gets, cold and not really that cold.
Well, last year
Really? Wow.
we never even wore a jacket.
Yeah, no, like last winter, I think we ran our air conditioner more than we did our heater here. I think we had about 2 weeks really of, inclement weather. Everything else really wasn't that bad.
That's pretty cool, man.
Well, you have these really hot summers and you really want the cold.
Well, I can take cooler weather, the fall I like, but winter, nah.
Well,
Can't stand it.
like I was telling you earlier, I was in the Army, and I was stationed about 4.5 years in Germany, so I learned what cold weather is.
Oh, God, yeah.
I don't really miss snow that much.
That's cool.
So, let's get a little background on you. How long have you been playing guitar, Steve?
Let's see, the number you want me to admit, or...
Whichever you feel more comfortable with, bro.
Well, let's see, I tell people, I'm playing for 33 years, which is very true, so I look good for 18, and, I've been playing guitar 33 years. It'll be 34 in November.
Right on. And well, what is your primary weapon of choice as far as your guitars?
It's all Ivan has 100%. Next year will be my 10-year anniversary with him as an endorser, so it's doing pretty good.
And you play 7-string guitars. You're a melodic 7-string guitarist, correct?
Yeah. With my own music, it's all 7-string. Whenever I do sessions and whatnot, I bring a 6 because some people kind of look at a 7 and kind of get turned off. I'm like, okay, so I'll come back to earth and I'll play a 6. I play what fits with my own music. It's 7s all the way. So.
And just to let you guys out there in Radio Land, we played the first 2 tracks off of his CD, Go Berserk, which was Surfing to Venus and To Be Human Again. And we will be playing the entire CD piece at a time, but we're not going to do it all at once. And it's, like I wrote in my review, Steve, it's a great album.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
And how was the recording sessions? Did they go pretty smooth?
For the most part, yeah. The first day of recording, we had little hiccups. It happens, but
Right.
overall, we were very pleased with the outcome. And then from there, the producer that we were working with, Johnny Truesdale, he's now over in L.A. He works over there in L.A. now. And, he was busy doing other sessions. So, to be honest, it was, we made sure we got the drums taken care of. That was the most important thing. And then, in the beginning, Joe really wasn't too sure of his bass lines. He's like, I think I got to go back and redo some. And Johnny kept telling him, no, they're fine, trust me. And I said, well, I got to redo guitar parts anyway. It was just important to get the rhythms down. And we would go to the studio whenever time was available because Johnny was busy, doing a lot of other sessions. So it wasn't like, come on, man, record me, and whenever he said, hey, you got a couple hours, come down, we'll bang out some tracks. And Johnny was very meticulous, and as you see the outcome, he did a great job. Everybody that played on the CD, everybody that had a hand in helping with the CD, making it come to life, really did a tremendous job.
I tell you, the production on it is really excellent. Everything cuts through great. I love the tones. How do you get the tone that you did on the album?
What, the guitar tones?
Yes.
Well, you're going to laugh. When I was tracking the guitar just to get the drum a half stack. Johnny let me use his 5150 half stack, and that thing obviously just slices through anything. But in the studio, we were using the 5150 head, and then he had a speaker off in another room, and you'd be surprised how fat the tone was with such a small speaker cabinet. And the reason the guitar sounds so huge is that he had me play each song 6 times.
Oh, wow.
And then he would pull 3 of the 6 best sounds and just interpolate them, because he had all these ribbon mics, and he's definitely a stickler for tone, and there was no such thing as that was good enough. He would look at me and say, no, we're going to do that again. And I think what caught him off guard was I didn't argue with him, because my attitude is, if your name is going on the CD, you better be proud of it.
Exactly.
And I didn't want him or anybody else going, what the hell, man? Yeah, but with Johnny, it was all about really making sure I was comfortable, and he walked me through a lot, and I don't want to slight other producers I worked with in the past, because they all did what they did really well, but you're dealing with a guy that won a Grammy for the Steve Martin Bluegrass album he did.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's impressive, yeah.
So with that in mind, there's no such thing as, it's good enough, just pack up and go home. He was like, no, I don't like the way the guitar sounds, let's change another guitar. And for the rhythms, I used my Universe 7-string. For the leads, I used his RG 550.
Oh, okay.
And and very minimal effects. I definitely used the wah pedal, obviously on some tracks, but everything else was done post. The univibes, the flangers, everything was done in post production, because he wanted everything to be as honest and as live as possible. And if I said, I want a flanger here, he would pop on a flanger, and that's when things would get funky, because he would say, okay, well, I could do this with the filter, and I could do this with the EQ, and I'm like, I just want a flanger, But he knew what he was doing, and I just kept my mouth shut, and that's why the CD sounds the way it does, and that's that.
That's kind of what you want to find, though, when you have someone that you're working with in the studio, is someone that has that ear and that musical vision and the drive to create something very unique sounding. And your CDs does sound very unique in tonal quality and production and musicality. It's a great album.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Let's get a little more to your background. What were some of the influence that you had growing up? What bands did you listen to? What guitar players really made you want to play the way you do?
Well, as far as music, before I even thought about playing guitar, I grew up hearing Led Zeppelin, what was typical of the 70s, Zeppelin, Kiss, Aerosmith, Queen, Deep Purple, Rush. My aunt's 9 years older than me, and to be honest, whatever she played, I absorbed, except for a couple of bands that I won't mention that I just couldn't listen to this day. I can't, but but outside of that, whenever she played Zeppelin, I would go ballistic, and she was dating a guy back in the 70s that brought over a stack of Kiss records, and he goes, check these out. With all these bands I was listening to, I never once thought I could be a musician. I just liked hearing these sounds and pretending I was, a rock star, and I still do that to this day, but, as a kid, my friends and I would jump up and down on our beds and pretend we were on stage, and it was never like, we gotta play music one day. I was like, no, this is really cool, and, there was definitely that little spark of, hey, this is fun, this is really cool, and, I was 9 when I got my first guitar, but I wouldn't play it because it was acoustic, so my father had a friend at his shop that he worked at a million years ago that they actually built me a guitar. And my father's attitude was, if you can play this thing, then I'll get you a real guitar. So that's how I started. I played on a homemade guitar, and I duked around a little bit. I learned a couple of notes and a couple of chords, but it wasn't until when MTV first came out and I saw the Rainbow concert, from 1982, and that just floored me. I'm like, I've got to play guitar. I really have to be serious, and up until that point, it was just something for me to do because I sucked at everything else. I'm like, well, I got this guitar, I might as well try it, and that was it. Blackmore and Jimi Hendrix, those are the first 2 guys that really made me want to play guitar for life. And
right on.
It just snowballed from there.
Yeah, Blackmore has that that knack for making people pick up a guitar and start playing.
Yeah.
Incredible
I
guitar
look
player.
at it this way, the bands that I listened to growing up, like I mentioned before, they made me appreciate music. I love music, but I never thought I could play guitar. I thought, oh, cool people play guitar, and I'm just not cool. So, I'd see my friends have guitars, cool looking guitars and little practice amps, and, hey, come to my house, check out my gear, and I'm thinking, man, that'll never be me because I'm just not cool. And, when I got my first real electric guitar, I felt like I was 40 feet tall. I'm like, okay, now I'm going to dominate the world, or at least half of my block for a week, and that's how I knew I wanted to do this for life, so.
Oh, man. Yeah, I know where you're coming from on that one.
Oh, yeah.
Now, do you still have that homemade guitar?
No.
No?
No, I think I was at 14, and, my dad and my mom, along with my grandfather, because he was a jazz player back in the day, they got me my first real electric guitar was a Guild Madeira Strat.
Oh, wow.
Because I really wanted a Fender Strat like what Blackmore played. I had to have the oversized headstock and the maple fretboard, and, I got to have a guitar like Blackmore, and they were like, well, that's too expensive, but how about this one? It kind of looks like a Strat. I'm like, me being 14, I went to a friend's house with a homemade guitar, and I had him run over it with his car.
Wow.
I was just like, what? I don't need this thing anymore. I'm a rock star now, crush, so.
That's an awesome story, bro.
Yeah, and it is what it is. I think Vinnie Vincent stole the idea from me because he ran over his guitar too, so.
There you go.
Yeah, I like what Bello did, man, crush, so.
Yeah, damn that Steve Bello, I won't be showing up.
Oh, yeah, he was in Kiss too, so there you go, yeah.
Now, what made you pick up a 7-string?
Oh, wow. When I was really getting into Steve Vai, he came out with the first Universe back in 88, 89. He had just joined Whitesnake.
Mm-hmm.
And he was talking about, I got the 7-string, it's got a low B, and if you want to sound like a 10-ton violin, this is for you. And, I was just, that to me was the Bible. I'm like, I have to check this guitar out. And I tried my first 7-string at Sam Ash, and I put it right back on the shelf. I said, I'm just never going to be good enough, so I didn't even touch it after that. And, I would pick one up here and there and think to myself, I really want to get into 7-string, but, I held myself back because I thought, well, I'm not as good as Steve Vai, I'm not as good as John Petrucci. It's not for me, and what was ironic, and people laugh, but it's the truth, when I heard the first Korn record, and I was like, wow, I like what they're doing. They're not doing crazy shred anything, but I liked the sounds they were getting because they were kind of, unearthly. And I'm like, okay, this is cool.
It was very different, for the time.
Yeah. So I always said, the first Korn record made me go, it doesn't have to be just a shred machine. It could be like really, really low end, bone crushing distortion and just, crazy stuff. And, then when I got into Jeff Loomis and Chris Broderick, with them playing 7-strings, they did both. They played real heavy and then they played real full-string solos. I'm like, okay, now I have to do this. I got my first 7-string back in 99, and I'll always remember this was 2 months after my daughter was born.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And that's how I got into it. Like, you know what? It's either now or never. And if it's just not for me, then it's not for me. And it's been for me ever since. So I've been playing 7-strings since 99.
I picked one up. I've got a friend that has been playing Ibanez 7s since about the same time. He's in a death metal band, and of course they use it for the low tuning and everything. And they tear it up, shred and everything too. And he's tried to get me for years. Hey, try this. I didn't care for it at first, And another friend of mine, he owned a few of the gems, and he had bought this is going to be a little sacrilegious for you, but he bought a Christian Old Wolber's signature model 7-string Jackson.
Okay.
And he didn't care for it too much, and my personal preference, I like playing Jacksons. And he came over, brought it over, and let me play it, and the neck was, it wasn't, to me, it didn't feel as thick, and that's what sold me on the 7s, was that guitar right there. And now I have no problem playing the Ibanez 7s, or any 7 for that matter. But I needed that intro into it, and it's amazing the doors that'll open for you in expanding your lick library.
Oh yeah,
you got a whole extra string. It's a whole new world.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say whenever I meet a student and they're like interested in 7, the first thing I'll tell them is don't look at it as a 6-string with an added 7. Just look at it as you're learning guitar. Take what you know and just apply different elements to it, and you'd be surprised what you come up with. And that kind of eases things, because when I first tried 7-string, my attitude was, oh my god, I got to relearn all over again. Oh my god. And I'm like, wait a minute. The other 6 strings haven't moved. The notes haven't changed. I'm just adding a B.
Exactly.
And then I have another guitar I tuned down to low A because Bucky Pizzarelli told me that. So.
Now, what kind of gear do you use, like whenever you're playing live?
Well, right now I have an Ibanez solid state head. It's been discontinued for quite some time, but it's a 150 watt TB150HX, and I have a PV412 MS cabinet. It's old school, but this thing rips. I mean, it's also heavy. That's why my back went out over the summer, and it's just got massive tone. It's got 4 Sheffields in it, and whenever people mic it up, they just stand back and the hairs blow back on their arms. It's like, dude, this thing is loud. It's a 300 watt cabinet.
That's the great thing about PV, though. That they're heavy, but man, they are well built. And
PV's indestructible.
I mean, they are durable as hell. I remember having an old Bandit back when, and sometimes after a few years, the reverb would mess up, and I have to pick it up from about 3 feet, 4 feet, and drop it, and then the reverb would kick in properly. But man, you can beat that thing. You can drop it out of a truck, and it's not going to stop.
Yeah, I mean, PV always made really well-built gear, and I had a Bandit when I was in high school too. I had a Bandit 65. And, that sucker was just like toned for days, man. I mean, and that did fall down a flight of steps, no joke. It slipped out of my hands and bonk. Oh, there we go. And I picked it up. I'm like, wow, not a scratch on it. Plugged it in. I was like, this thing's got some serious mojo. I like this amp, and I had a 5150 and I had a Joe Satriani head, and they're great gear, but I went back to solid state because it's easier on my back, and to be honest, I know everybody will say tubes are warmer and tubes are a lot broader range, which I totally agree with, but for me solid state just works.
Yeah, I never really was much into the tube tone, to be honest with you. Just it's my personal opinion. I've always been a fan of the solid state, and right now I'm using a Line 6. It's a Spider 3 head, HD 150. I love that thing. I mean, there's so much you can do with it, and I'm running through a Behringer 412 cab.
Oh wow!
That has the JBLs in it. It's a 400 watt cab.
Yeah.
And it sounds great. And the great thing about the little setup is my speakers are designed to where they don't add any kind of flavoring.
Yeah.
And you know how you play through a Marshall or you play through a Mesa Boogie, you get that vibe of that amp, And this one I can program my head for whichever, and the true sound will come out of my speakers.
Yeah, definitely.
And I've just never been one for tubes. Plus, you got to change them when they go out. To me, they're just a pain in the ass.
I mean, I love tube sound too. Don't get me wrong, but very unreliable sometimes. You do a gig and the little gremlins come out. I'm like, what happened to my sound? I never worried about that with solid state.
Now let's talk a little bit about your endorsements that you have. You already touched on the Ibanez endorsement, and you recently got picked up for a few others.
Yeah. Morley pedals. Just signed on board with late July. Because some people might know this. I also moonlight in TM Stevens' band whenever scheduling allows. He'll call me and say, I need you for a gig. I only did one gig with him so far, but I was going to see, we did a show June 16th, and right after the gig, he called me and he said, I'm working on a song. I'm going over to Germany in September for the Warwick Festival 30th anniversary. And Hans Peter, the CEO of the Grand Poobah over at Warwick, and he asked him to write a 15-minute song to go in time with fireworks.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, it's pretty intense. And he told me he's near done, and he said, I want you to play guitar on it. And I was like, let me think about that. I'll be there in an hour, and next thing I know, I'm in the studio, and he said, don't bring any pedals. I have a lot of gear here. Of course he does, and
Right.
he pulled out, another wah pedal, and I won't say the brand name, and I played it, and I'm like, it's okay, and then I said, well, you're with Morley, man, let me check out something, and I had a Bad Horsey. Years ago. It's a fantastic pedal, and he pulls out this Pro Series wah, so I plugged into it, I'm like, oh my god, this thing sounds unreal. Wow, it really, I don't know what was in it that just made my sound, come alive a lot further. And he's like, you really like that pedal? And I said, yeah, I'd like to check out the Bad Horsey too, and he made one phone call. He talked to Bill Wenzloff over at Morley, and he said, contact Steve over at DR Strings, that's where I work, and next thing I know, he sends me an email, if you're interested, we'll do something for you, this and that, and about a week into it, he just said, all right, send me a picture, send me a quote why you like Morley, and boom, that was it. So I'm officially on board with Morley. I use the Steve Vai Bad Horsey, and the insistence of my buddy Duke, he wants me to check out the George Lynch Dragon Law, so I think I want to look into that too, plus it looks cool, so.
Right on. Now, so you're endorsed through, let's see, Ibanez and Morley, also, of course, DR, correct?
Yeah, I had played DR long before I worked for the company. I'll be with the company, it'll be 5 years next January.
Oh, wow.
And back in 2003, when I signed on with Ibanez, the short version of how I got hooked up with Ibanez was I had met Chris Broderick when he was in the Yacht Panther at the Bird Show back in 2002, and at the time he was playing a Schecter, and he had this Ibanez, and it was the pink one that I have. It's technically magenta. And my buddy that was with me that night, he goes, dude, why don't you go up to him and tell him you play Ibanez? And I said, hey, he's going to look at me and go, why don't you bother me, kid? And I just walked right up to him like I knew him forever, and I just said, hey, man, I have that guitar. And he goes, oh, it's the best guitar I ever played. And and I said, look, I have friends over at Ibanez, and I'll have them talk to you. So at the time, they hooked him up, and he was at Ibanez for a while. Now he's with Jackson. He got his own signature Jackson, and and in turn, they hooked me up, and they said, when you start doing clinics, we're gonna have CDs out, and that's how I got my so-called instrumental career going. But when Yacht Panther played at BB King's, this is how the DR thing comes into play. When they were playing over at BB King's, they opened for Halloween, and Chris came out with the guitar that Ivan had built for him, and he goes, dude, check this guitar out, man. So I picked it up, and the first thing I noticed were the strings. It felt really different, and I'm like, what are these strings, man? He said, those are DRs. I'm like, they are? I thought they only made bass strings, because I always saw ads for the Marcus Miller and the Bootsy strings, and I'm like, they make guitar strings? And he goes, yeah. And he says, I think they're right by your house, because I used to live in Westwood.
Mm-hmm.
And I look in the phone book, I'm like, son of a gun, I can roll out of bed, and I'm right there. So I made one phone call, and they gave me a set to check out. I did my first, I take that back, the second Ibanez clinic I did was when I got to try the DRs. And I told them right in front of however many people were there, I came right out, and I said, this is the first time I'm trying DRs. I just put these strings on a night ago, and they locked right into tune. I said, these are the best strings I've ever played. I'm not playing anything else, and that's how it started. And then, some years later, they just said it would be natural if you worked for us, and I was like, yeah, that was it.
Now, the strings that you mainly play are the neon strings, correct?
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, the ones I love are those neon greens. Those look so cool.
Those are the best sellers for us.
And those just recently came on the market as a 7-string set. The 6-string set, you said, has been out for about 2 years now, correct?
Yeah, they came out September 23rd, 2010, and we're just killing with them. Absolutely killing, and it's gotten to the point where, a store will call any one of us, there's 5 reps in the office. Yeah, I'm a new dealer, and I got to have those neons. They don't mention anything else. And They're like, well, you know, we have other strings, and yeah, but I gotta have those neons. The kids are going psycho over those, you know. And that's it. You know, I mean, you know, the other thing I can mention is that, you know, the Ibanez reissues, the 25th anniversary guitars, you know, the first run of the RGs, the S's, and the second run of the RGs, you know, I'm not going to give myself all the credit, but I'm probably the reason why the neons are on those guitars.
Right on. That is awesome.
It's a simple case of, hey, we got these neon guitars, the whole guitar glows, we need your strings, all right. That was it. You know, total no-brainer. And any store I talk to, they're like, yeah, you know, these neons, I just got them in, I threw them on the black Ibanez. I always hear Ibanez, I never hear any other guitar. You know, it's like Ibanez and neon go hand in hand now, so it just seems to work.
I know I went, after I interviewed you last year, I went down to the music store to see if they had 7s, and of course at the time they didn't, but the guy said that, you know, they could order in the 6 strings, they can't keep them in stock. As soon as they get them in, they're gone.
Oh, yeah.
It's amazing how quickly those strings sell.
Well, I mean, it's definitely unique and it's definitely innovative.
Oh, very much so.
I mean, a string that glows under black light, come on, you know?
Yeah.
Like, what's next? You know, DR makes Hendrix come back from the grave. Oh my God, I gotta play those strings. You know, it's just like, yes, we're the only string company that made Hendrix come back. You know, so we sell tons of strings that day, man.
Yeah, no doubt. Now, see, how has the reaction been to Go Berserk? Has it been pretty well received?
Oh yes, very much so. You know, the reviews are just stellar from what I've been seeing, and you know, as far as even when people play the CD, whether it's overseas, you know, or you guys, or the station in Vegas and up in Canada, I mean, once in a while I'll hear something like, well, you know, you can maybe not do some funk, you know, and I'm like, well, this is what I like to play, man. Oh, no, we respect that, you know, but, you know, if you did more metal, I'm like, it is metal. Yeah, I just like to throw little things in the mix, you know, jazz, funk, blues, whatever. But overall, everybody that's heard the CD that's reviewed has been giving it really great reviews, and that's tremendous, you know, because there's so much music out there, especially on Facebook. You have like 7 million bands. I think it's bigger than MySpace ever was, and, you know, you got all these bands vying for attention, but you know, I don't want to pat myself on the back, but I think I'm offering something just a tad different. You know, I mean, it's not Steve Vai, it's not Joe Satriani, but
but it stands out. It's different. It's refreshingly different. I mean, let me add that to it. And it's awesome music. And look, I really enjoy the way that you are not scared to, you know, experiment and add in some of that different, you know, type of sounds, like the, you know, the funk or some of the fusion you've added into it. I mean, it sounds really great.
Well, no, again, I really appreciate that, and I think the reason why I write the way I write is because I have massive OCD, you know, and I don't want to be boring, and I don't want to be bored, and I just, when I write music, it's got to feel good, and when I started doing, I did instrumental demos years ago, but it was to find another band.
Right.
It was never, I think I can have a career as an instrumental artist. It was never entered my mind. But, you know, when I started doing clinics for Ibanez, and they said, well, do you have any CDs? I'm like, I guess I do starting today. And, you know, my first CD was basically a mishmash of riffs I had from bands I played in years ago that never got used or ignored. And I said, this is going to be my first album. And I admit, for about a day, I thought, well, what should I sound like? What should I do? And, you know, I was told, just do everything. I thought, that's it? Yeah, that's it. Just do everything. You know, not everything's going to be a hit out of the park, but, you know, I think back to bands like Living Colour and James Addiction and Faith No More, and, you know, even as recently as bands like Animals as Leaders. I mean, these guys don't care about convention. They just, whatever sticks to the wall, that's what they go with. It's not, well, I better sound like this today, or else I'll lose fans. It's like, you know, the more you think about what you should sound like, the less chances you'll have of really tapping into a certain source and getting your music out there. And with each Go Berserk by Fifth One. Each CD, in my estimation, has always been like a progression of sorts. And, each CD has a couple of tunes where my friends are like, you could have left that off. I'm like, you're right, I could have, but I didn't, did I? And it's on there, and you don't have to listen to it, just skip it, get forward, but I can't be afraid to play certain things. Like, I can't, I think what really surprised me is, when I started playing out with this music, which was never my intention, but it just happened, we had different lineups I had over the years. We were opening for emo bands, death metal bands, we opened for a bluegrass band.
Wow.
And
I bet that was different.
What's that?
So I bet that was different, opening for a bluegrass band.
That's actually a funny story. I can get into that later if you want. But, but everybody that we played with, my attitude is, man, they're going to laugh me off the stage. What the hell is this guy doing? He looks like he belongs in Black Sabbath. Go home, And people will come up to me from all walks, whether it's somebody playing screamo, emo, or somebody playing Green Day style punk. They're like, dude, you're doing something different without singing. Oh my God, we wish we had your balls. I'm like, I'm just doing this. I don't look at it like that. I just look at it as, this is what I enjoy. And you could do it too if you really open your mind up and say, okay, if you genuinely enjoy playing pop punk, that's great. But if you're doing it because everybody else is doing it,
that's totally the wrong reason.
That's the point why you play music. It's like when everybody played hair metal, and then a year later, oh wait, I'm grunge. So
yeah. Well, Steve, we're going to go ahead and jam on a few more tunes if you don't mind.
I'm totally cool with that.
Okay, we're going to play tracks 3, 4, and 5, which are Go Berserk, Scratch That Itch, and Sometimes Hidden.
Yep.
So, metalheads, stick around, and we'll be back here in just a few. Welcome back, metalheads. You are listening to Bullshitting with Bob, and I am here with Mr. Steve Bello of the Steve Bello Band.
Right here.
Well, actually, you're right there in Jersey, and we're right here in Bama. Now, during the break, we were talking, actually before the break, we were discussing some of the gigs you played, and you made mention of a funny story about jamming with a bluegrass band.
Oh, yes.
Okay, let's hear the dirty details.
Okay, it's an interesting story. It's pretty funny. Well, like I said earlier, we've done shows at various lineups over the years. And, we did shows with a lot of punk bands and death metal bands and all the walks were going, wow, your band's really good. You don't need a singer, and, what you guys are doing is really cool. And, one of the best compliments I ever heard was this drummer, he played in a punk band called Satterthwaite. And his father walked up to me and said, you guys sound like Mount Vishnu Orchestra on crack. I'm like, I like that.
Wow.
Because I love John McLaughlin. He was an influence on me as a guitar player. And the drummer I was with at the time, he loved Billy Cobham. So it just worked out that he picked out Mount Vishnu Orchestra. I'm like, okay, cool. But we did a gig at KCO Tools in Wayne, New Jersey. This was back in, late 2005, if I'm not mistaken. And I was told you're going to be playing with a band called Barefoot. And I'm thinking, Barefoot? The heck kind of music? And I couldn't find a MySpace page, and this was even before Facebook started taking off.
Right.
I couldn't find anything about this band. I'm like, maybe they're like a cover band that does surf tunes. I mean, I don't know. With a name like Barefoot, what the heck are you going to be? So we're loading in, and in walks like this band with, I'm not kidding, mandolins, fiddles, banjos. I'm like, something's going on here. Am I at the right show? What's going on? We're all scratching our heads like, what's this? And they introduced themselves. Hi, we're the band Barefoot. We're from Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. We're like, what are you doing in Jersey? Going out here. And they're like, well, we're a bluegrass band. And I'm like, this is going to be something. This is like, when Miles Davis would open for Black Sabbath at the Fillmore, and okay, this is going to be pretty strange, but we'll take it. And, we did our set, and the band stayed. And I'm thinking, they're going to walk away plugging their ears. You guys suck. Go home. You're too loud. They got up on stage, and the first thing they said was, we just played a Battle of the Bands last night, and Steve Bello Band is the best metal band because they don't have a whiny singer.
Wow.
And they tore ass, man. I'm telling you. I mean, they were great. It was like a 6-piece band, 6 or 7-piece band, and the one girl, she was changing between violin, mandolin, banjo, acoustic guitar. She was singing the whole band. I was like, wow.
That's very impressive.
Yeah, you know, and we stuck around for the whole show, you know, because you know how most bands like, oh, we're just going to go home, thanks. We stayed for their set, and we started chatting with them, and they were like, no, we really meant it, you know, we're not too crazy about metal, but there's something about your music that we like because there's no singer interfering with the music, and 3 years of just breathing and playing, and we were like, wow, we got to do more shows together, you know, and,
a lot of people be surprised too. If you've never experienced bluegrass music, I don't really care for country at all, but I don't really view bluegrass as country music, but they would be the shred of that genre.
I would agree. You know, I mean, these guys and girls, let's be fair, was definitely a mix.
Yeah.
You know, as far as the shred angle, I mean, this girl, I mean, she was playing some kicking guitar work. I was like, you know, you players have it down because that's what you live for. And, you know, it's like watching somebody playing nylon string classical. I mean, when they play Bach and Beethoven, and it makes your eyes tear because it's so gorgeous. You're like, they're devoted to that instrument.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and they live for that music. It's not, well, today I'll play classical, tomorrow I'll play Iron Maiden. It's like, no, we're going to play classical. And when I watched this girl, you know, she was playing violin effortlessly and mandolin and whatnot. I'm like, this band in general has got their finger on the pulse. And I'm, you know, and I lost touch with them. I know they changed their band name to what I don't remember, but like I said, this was 7 years ago. But
right.
If they're even still together, that's great, you know. But I know they changed their name, some kind of tree, I think. I forget the name of it, but yeah, you could tell these people were committed to their art. It wasn't just something to do because it was cool. I mean, they lived for it.
Right.
And I think that's what blew the lineup I had at the time. That's what blew us away. Like, wow, this is nuts. You know, there was no pretensions. It's like these people love their music.
I've got DJ Punky in the chat room, and he's asking, is that place even open anymore?
KCO Tools?
Say again?
The place I play, KCO Tools?
Wherever that bluegrass was.
Yeah, wherever you play the bluegrass show at.
Yeah, I'm sure they're still in business. Yeah, they're up in Wayne. Yeah, they're still around.
Right
I don't
on.
think they do bands anymore, but I know, you know, for a while they were booking all the premier cover bands in the area, you know, and I think we were one of the few original artists that they booked. And, you know, the funny part is after the show, the club owner wouldn't talk to me, and the restaurant owner, and I said, what's wrong with you? You're too loud. I'm like, I told you. You know, we don't play Kenny G smooth jazz, you know, we're funky metal, and you're too loud. And I said, well, did anybody complain? Oh, a couple people complained. I'm like, out of how many?
Right?
We were never asked back. I'm like, oh, that's good, because we didn't really feel comfortable playing here anyway. So, like, somebody's trying to enjoy steak dinner, and I'm playing this, like, ear-bleeding guitar work, and you hear all these, like, funk rhythms in the back. I'm trying to enjoy my Great Poupon, you know, it's just like...
Yeah, DJ Punky saying he thinks that you were probably the only original band to play there.
I think so. I mean, Barefoot were original. You know, I'm very confident they were original too, but, you know, a lot of places, especially in North Jersey, they just don't really cater to original acts. You have to go to South Jersey for that. You know, when I played the Starland, I mean, we were totally welcomed, and, you know, when I played with TM at the Brighton Bar, I mean, that's his turf. I mean, TM plays the Brighton Bar. It's, you know, it's like Led Zeppelin playing the Garden, and, you know, South Jersey definitely really is thirsty for original acts, and everybody goes south. You know, everybody goes to the Wonder Bar in Asbury Park. Everybody goes to the Stone Pony, you know, and Starland Ballroom up here in North Jersey. It's, what covers do you do?
Oh,
I don't do covers. All right, then we can't talk to you. All right, thanks.
DJ Punky said he saw you at the Starland.
Okay.
And he also said that KCO Tools loves the Stars production bands.
Yes, precisely. Yeah, Stars Productions, I mean, they're definitely a management firm or whatever you want to call it that don't mess around. I mean, they have a lot of the clubs under lock and key for for the most part, as far as, like the top cover bands and the top tribute bands. I understand it's a business, but, there's no room for original bands up here, not really. And, if you're just starting out, that's a challenge.
Yeah.
And that's why everybody goes to South Jersey now, from what I can tell. There's Dingbats up in Clifton, and, they definitely have a cool following. They book a lot of the old school metal bands. Kill Devil Hill just played there, and they get all the 80s bands that play there. George Woods played there, and, I want to say LA Guns just played there recently, but, that's cool. Don't get me wrong, but that's not my scene, and I would look like Steve Vai playing with Deicide. I just wouldn't fit in up there, so
Right.
I concentrate on, I know where I belong, and if Dingbats ever contacted me, I hadn't played there in years, if they ever contacted me and said, hey man, we have a slot for you, you want to open for, Joe Lynn Turner? Hell yeah, I'll do it, but I know where I belong with the kind of music I do, when we opened for Uli Roth and Leslie West at Starland, that was prime real estate for us.
And Punky said that
perfect.
DJ Punky said that the Starland gig was a killer show.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you. Yeah, we totally doubt. Here's the funny story with that. We had one rehearsal before the show.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, because, Joe DeMont's been playing bass with me for a couple of years. He and I played in a band together a million years ago. And we have T.C. Tolliver. He played with the Plasmatics, and he also plays with T.M. Stevens. And he has a project going on with T.M. and Vinnie Martell for Vanilla Fudge called Chocolate Fudge Rainbow. And they do a lot of Hendrix, and, it's just for fun, and, when I asked TC, you want to play the Starland? He's just like, yeah, I played with Uli Roth in the 90s. I'm like, this is going to be beautiful. And, Leslie West drummer was Bobby Rondinelli from Rainbow.
Huh.
Richie Blackmore, Rainbow connection. I'm standing there looking at him like, if it wasn't for that damn concert at MTV, I wouldn't be playing guitar right now. Like, it's come full circle for me. I'm like, I'm looking at the drummer that played that show.
Right.
And, it was just so trippy. I'm like, wow, Uli Roth is one of my gods, and I walk right up to him, and and he's the coolest guy you'll ever meet, and he's really funny.
Now, I've heard that. I've also heard he's a practical joker, too.
I don't know about that, but when I saw him, it was me, him, TC, the drummer, Bobby Rondinelli was standing next to us, and I think it was one of Uli's stage hands. I don't remember, to be honest. But we're just chatting, just talking about anything. The music, and this is great. And Uli looks right at me, and he goes, Stevie, is it me or is it cold in here? I said, yeah, it's a little chilly in here. And it was the middle of February too, so it was freezing outside and it's freezing inside. And he yelled out loud, turn down the air conditioner, I'm going to die. And right away they turned down the air conditioner. I'm just like, damn, that's power. And he goes, how do I expect to play when it's really cold outside? I'm like, but you're really rough, you can play underwater.
That dude is incredible, man.
It was my first show in 4 years, and here it is, you want to open for Uli and Leslie at Starland? I'm like, wow, my first show in 4 years, and it's this. Yeah, okay, trial by fire, let's do this. And,
yeah, no intimidation at all.
It was a killer show. What was that?
Said no intimidation at all.
I'll be very straight with you. I needed 4 pair of underwear, as I was driving down to the Starland, and
I can totally understand that.
Every rest area I was changing, it's just like, I can't believe I'm doing this, and I got to the room, and saw a couple of friends there, and we're just hanging out, and I said, I gotta run to my car, and in walks Uli. I'm like, oh my god, you're really wrong. He goes, how are you? I'm like, you're better than me. That's how I am, but he was really, really cool, and he just hung out, and we had a great time, That's how it should be.
Yeah.
No animosity, you have friendly competition. I think that's important. Keep each other on your toes, but to have this, cutthroat competition, I'm going to make sure this and that. I'm like, it's not what music's all about, man.
No, it's not.
And,
it's great, too.
The whole night had this electricity to it. Everybody did a great job, and, I know when I hit the stage, I wanted people to feel like that I just descended from Mars and I got my wish, so...
Now I've heard that Uli, you know, is pretty laid back and
Oh yeah.
very connected to his roots.
Yes.
And
His show was blistering. I mean, oh my God.
it was a shred fest.
It wasn't so much a shred fest. I mean, he could definitely tear it with the best of them, but he's very patient with his shred. I noticed that with him because you're expecting him to like just totally cut loose and just fry your eyes out, and he's not doing it. And you're like, it's coming. He's getting there. Nope, he didn't do it. Next song. Okay, he's really turning on. No, he didn't do it. You know, and then when you're not looking, that's when he just blinds you.
Gets you when you least expect it.
I'm just gonna play tuba. You know, I give up. I'm gonna be the best shred tuba player out there. But
Uli's like one of those like B.B. King players because he can make 1,000 words out of one single note. The guy has incredible feel.
Oh my God, yeah. You know, and he let me hang during sound check, and his band got up and they did. I think they did Pictured Life because they did that in the set. I think they did Pictured Life as a sound check, and they did a bit of Sales of Sharon, and I'm sitting there like, God, I don't play it right. He's showing me how to play it the right way, and you know, and I'm watching him. He's just standing there like he's sleeping, and he's playing these amazing licks, and I'm like, I have a lot of growing up to do. It was definitely an eye opener, you know. You
right.
Just watch him and how he conducts himself, and you know, he's like, does my house sound good? And we're like, yeah. And he goes, you're full of shit. Turn it up. I'm like, all right.
Now, yeah,
he's definitely a class act. You know, if that was the last gig I ever played in my life, I'm glad it would have been that one.
that would be an incredible last gig. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, somebody said, Steve, this is the last time you can ever perform live. This is it. Okay. I got something for you, Willie Roth. I can go home now. You know, that's it. Thanks, you know.
Now, you were saying you had some other interesting stories from different gigs you played?
You know, as far as like I said, you know, the first gig I played, you know, my first lineup, we played A's in Bergenfield. It was a last minute gig, you know, I just released my second CD. It was this album called All Wired Up, and the week before I was supposed to do an Ibanez clinic, I get a phone call from the owner, I think his name was Mike, and he said, is your band available for next Friday? You come recommend it. I'm like, we have never rehearsed as a live band because I have no intention of playing live. Well, we need a band to fill in. Can you do it or not? And I'm like, yeah, let's do it. What the heck? My attitude was, if this is the only time I'm going to perform with instrumental original material, this will be the time. And we had one rehearsal, and we opened for a cover band and a blues band. And it was definitely an interesting experience because everybody in the room were like, who are these guys? And after the third song, people were like, where's your next gig? You know, and I had announced that I was doing a clinic for Ibanez the next day at the store I worked at, Victor's House of Music, and the next day, people from the show came to the clinic, they're like, we had to see you again. I'm like, are you crazy?
Wow.
You know, my last name's not Vi, it's Bello. Go home, you know, and you know, the whole point is, you know, with the instrumental music, it took on a life of its own. I never had to knock down doors, and you gotta hear my CD, man. It was never like that. Everything was very natural because I stayed out of the way. You know, we started doing more shows. I mean, we were opening for a death metal band. I think they were called Our Dying Souls was the name of the band.
Mm-hmm.
And then we opened for another band. I think they were called I'm sorry if I'm getting this wrong. I think it was Blood Soaked Massacre, and the lead singer's mic stand was a pencil. He actually made a mic stand out of a big number 2 pencil. And I'm like, okay. Every gig was just so weird and so different, and I'm like, here I am, you know, like I said, I look like I belong in Black Sabbath. I'm going to get laughed off the planet, yet everybody does the music, and that's when it hit me. Doesn't matter what you're playing, you know, whatever lineup I had, the three of us would go on stage and just kill it, and people couldn't help but say, whoa, you're for real. And that to me was always so important, and I've yet to hear somebody say, you know, you kind of forced it tonight, you kind of rushed it, you kind of dragged it, I don't know. You know, not everybody's going to like the music, like, I understand that, you know, and I've had a couple of people say, you know, I know a good singer, good, you can keep him, and But, you know, every gig is very different, you know, and I prefer Southern rock band, you know, and some great friends of mine, a band called 6 to 8 Mathematics, and they're a really high-energy Ramones-style punk band, you know, it's 3 girls and a guy drummer, and they're still going strong, they're still doing great, and anytime we get to do shows together, it's always a blast, you know, because they're big fans of mine and vice versa, and we always have a great time, and, you know, they were, the first show I did with them was at the Axis Lounge, and it was with the Southern Rock Band, actually, and, you know, they got done playing, and we got up on stage, and they were like, we guys are doing shows together. Oh my God, you guys are unbelievable. Wow, you know, 3-piece instrumental, man, I'm like, this is what I do. You know, there was really no thought behind it. I didn't wake up one morning and say, I think I'll do 3-piece instrumental. Yeah, it just never happened. It fell into place. And that's why, in a weird way, it's lasted almost 10 years, so.
That's why I think it sounds so natural, because, you know, like you said, it all fell into place like it's supposed to be. It wasn't nothing pushed, forced, or rushed, you know, to be put together or anything. And, you know, when I wrote my review of Go Berserk, I likened you to a lot of the shrapnel artists like, you know, Tony McAlpine and Vinnie Moore. And you're a very humble guy, but, you know, you are a very talented guitar player. I mean, you can shred that guitar.
I appreciate it.
You know, and I'm sure everyone in the chat room is hearing that with the tunes we've been playing. It's very evident.
Oh, really? What are they saying? Because I'm not near a computer, so.
Well, they're more listening right now, but it's pretty self-evident when you hear the CD, you know, and you start going off on a nice little lick tangent. It speaks for itself.
Well, you know, I'm sure you've experienced this too. You know, you meet up with some people. You know, I'm going back ways away. You know, playing in bands, and it's almost like a rule, like some kind of an unwritten law. We have to sound like so and so.
Yeah.
And people will go out of their way. You know, I mean, I'm guilty of it. I'm not stupid. You know, and bands I played in back in the late '80s, early '90s. You know, we would get together through ads, or hey, my friend's a drummer, let me get you in touch with him. Okay, great, we're going to start a band. Okay, we have to sound like this. Okay, and then we'd have to find a singer that sounded like that guy. We'd have to find a bass player. When you have to do it, it never works.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have to force the issue, and I mean, you know, like I said, I'm guilty of it. You know, and when all this happened with instrumental music, the first rule for me was there are no rules. I'm just going to play. And if you like it, great. If you don't, we'll shake hands and move on. And I think it's evident that, you know, especially with how well Go Berserk was received, I think people gravitated towards it because, you know, Surfing to Venus was the first single I released about a good 3 months. I debuted it on my MySpace page. And I was getting inundated with emails. When's the album coming out? I'm like, July, I think. And, you know, it came out July 11th, 2011. I did that on purpose. And, boom, people are emailing me, you know, where do I send a check? You know, where do I download? I gotta have this. And I'm like, well, just so you know, Surfing to Venus is the most commercial song on the album. I'm afraid you're gonna hear the rest of it and go, what is this crap? But fortunately, people listen to it and go, wow, there's something different, there's something cool. You know, everybody's playing their butts off, and, you know, that's important to me. It's you know, it's got a very, very natural feel and very natural groove. Everybody played their instruments with respect, and that's really what it is. There was never, you know, like, what are you trying to do, man? You know, and I hear that with a lot of bands, a lot of local bands. I don't want to sound super critical, but I'm going to check out a band. You got to see my friend's band. These guys are great. Okay. And I'm like, what are they doing? Where are they going with this? What do they sound like? I don't know. It's like, what are they trying to be? Well, you know, it's like, you know, like Pantera, but not really. Well, either it is or it isn't.
Exactly. I know a lot of bands, you know, they latched onto that Lamb of God sound, too. Had a lot of the clones come out.
Well, you know, it's natural to copy. It's harder to innovate, and, you know, it's easier to hide behind something. you know, and
Yeah,
you know,
I
as a
agree
kid
with that.
growing up, you know, I cut my teeth listening to Scorpions and Accept and Judas Priest, and I really want to play that music. I really want to play, you know, real screechy headbanging metal, and I still love it to this day. But when I heard Living Colour for the first time, I went, wait a minute, this appeals to me. There's something about this band that I have to emulate, and they were my go-to band, you know, ever since. Like, wow, you know, Living Colour just did it for me, you know, and I wasn't born when the first Zeppelin album came out, and to me, as much as I love Zeppelin, and they were the first band I ever heard, to me, Living Colour were my Led Zeppelin. I'm like, now I found something I can latch onto. And that was my litmus test, like, okay, this is what I have to aim for.
Well, you know, whenever Living Colour came out, they were so avant-garde at the time compared to what was out. Because, in fact, I remember when Metallica's video for One was being debuted on MTV, back when MTV played music. And, yeah, the M actually used to stand for music.
Yeah, now it's one of those shows like Grandma at 16 or something like that.
Yeah. But they played Cult of Personality. That was the video right before they debuted One.
Yeah, I remember that.
And, I mean, it was just a far cry from the norm at the time, because, I mean, Metallica just released Injustice. I think Megadeth had So Far So Good out at the time. Slayer had, I think they had just come out with South of Heaven. And so you had all this going on in the metal scene, and then, you know, these guys come out with this way different sound, and it was really refreshing, you know? It was very good, unique type of different.
You know, it was them and Faith No More and Jane's Addiction, and, you know, one of the things some people probably don't realize is that I actually listened to punk back in high school. You know, I never got too into punk like some of my friends, but I love Sex Pistols. You know, I love Black Flag. And,
well, me too.
Discharge, some Dead Kennedys, but
Henry Rollins is the man.
Oh, he's great. He's great. He's so funny.
You ever get into any of his spoken word?
I've heard bits and pieces, yeah.
I love what he has to say. The guy is just so intense, and you know, he's very steadfast in his thinking, and he is so funny. I love it. Whenever he talks about, me and Buffy talk about this a lot, when he mentions, you know, Tony Iommi, he throws the horns up and calls him the Dark God of Metal. And I love that. Every time he says that.
Yeah.
But
I got to meet Tony Iommi last year, the day before I turned 42, so that was awesome.
Wow. Now, see, that would have been somebody...
And everybody was just like, dude, you met him? I'm like, yeah, it was pretty sweet.
That would have been one I probably had to wear about 10 sets of drawers for.
What was that?
Said that would be a guy, if I met him, I'd need about 10 sets of drawers.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, I immediately thought that. And what really blew my mind was he's so soft-spoken.
Wow.
You know, I didn't expect him to be like Ozzy, like, I love you, you know, I didn't expect that. But I walked up to him, you know, he was doing a signing at Bookends in Ridgewood, and I walked right up to him, and I'm looking right at him, I'm like, you're the reason why I play down-tune metal, dude. You have no idea. You know, Into the Void, oh my god.
Right.
That was like the sickest shit I heard when I was 13. I'm like, this is impossibly heavy, and I love it. And I went to shake his hand, and he looks right at me, and he goes, put your shades on, mate. I was like, what? So I put my mirror shades on, we took the picture, and I was like, wow, he asked me to put my shades on. Maybe he doesn't want to look at me? I don't know, but so I thanked him. I said, you hear this a lot, but I really want to thank you for your music. And he goes, that was very nice of you, thank you. And I'm like, I can't hear you, what? I was like, you know, I mean, geez, you know, and I walked away, and I was like, I just shook Tony Iommi's hand. This is like, you know, for me, shaking Steve Vai's hand the first time was a religious experience. And he was like, wow, I shook Tony Iommi's hand, and let's see, who else do I need to meet before I die? Jimmy Page, you know, and yeah, Tony was really, really cool, and just, like I said, very soft-spoken, and just very patient. talking his ear off, and I'm good at that if you haven't noticed. And I thought to myself, no, I'm going to say very few, very little, and get my point across. And because he was very laid back, I'm like, okay, this works.
You know, I've seen interviews with Tony Iommi, and he seems, you know, really reserved.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, he has that English sensibility, you know, stiff upper lip, and, you know, he's very, very private.
Yes.
But everything I've seen that he's done, it's always straight to the point. He says what's on his mind, and then, you know, on to the next thing.
Yeah, I think we need more people like that. I really do, you know, and I've met tons of people over the years, and he's definitely somebody that there's no bullshit with him.
Well, Steve,
You know, he just,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, you know, with him, like you say, he's very to the point. I said what I had to say. He said what he had to say. We shook hands, and I walked away. I was like, okay.
Well, we're going to go ahead and throw on a couple more tunes.
Okay.
We're going to play Throwing Away My Skin and Chomp. This will be tracks 6 and 7 off of Steve Bello Band, Go Berserk. And we'll be back here in just a few minutes. Alright, metalheads, we are finally back. You're listening to Bullshitting with Bob on Brutiful Metal Radio, and I have in the studio via phone Mr. Steve Bello with the Steve Bello Band.
Here we are once again, man.
And here we are. Now, Steve, what all do you have in the works right now? Any new discs or upcoming shows that you'd like to discuss?
Right now, the only show I have coming up is September 29th. I'm playing at the Brighton Bar in Long Branch with my dad. I played there in June with T.M. Stevens. The killer performance, sold out the place. It was unreal. And, you know, the owner, Greg, he was really impressed with everything, and we got to talking, and I just very nonchalantly said, look, you know, I have my own band. If you ever need somebody to open up or fill in last minute, let me know. And he said, I'll keep that in mind. And then about a week later, he said, I have a gig, you're going to headline. I'm like, I'm going to headline?
Right. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, you know, and yeah, so that's the 29th, and I think we're going on about 11ish or something like that, but I'm always writing new music, you know, it's just a question of when we're going to all finally get to sit down and really hammer out the new tunes and just take it from there. But again, I can't force these things. It's whenever it happens, and when it presents itself, then I'm ready.
Right.
You know, and I'm always writing, you know, have a riff or just a melody, or it might have a complete song, or whatever. You know, I'm always writing something down. I'm always recording something on my boombox, you know, because you never know. I mean, at the moment it can sound stupid, and then a week later, wow, that was actually pretty cool, or the opposite can happen. But, you know, Frank Zappa said it the best, remember every stupid little thing you do, so.
Now, that's something I wanted to ask you also. How do your songs start off? I mean, do you have just like an idea, or do you come up with a riff, say, while at practice, and you just, you know, kind of embellish it?
Well, you know, most of the time my best ideas come up early in the morning because, you know, I just woke up and, you know, I had my first cup of coffee, so it's not like I've been inundated with noises and sounds all day, and, you know, I pick up a guitar and I'll just be like, I just want to noodle for a couple of minutes before I go to work or I drop the kids off at school, and sometimes I'll have a riff like, whoa, I better write this down. And if the riff really sticks with me for about a good 2 days, then I'll know I'm onto something. But if I just forget it, then I'm like, well, it wasn't meant to be. But most of the time it's a riff. The only exception I can recall is with the song Surfing the Venus. I was actually trying to learn some George Benson riffs, you know, little jazzy licks, and I was playing on the couch, you know, the melody that you hear on the song, well, became, I should say. And my wife goes, wow, that's actually pretty nice. And I'm like, nice? I'll write nice. I want to write real head-snapping rock metal. This is nice, you know. You know, the Carpenters are nice, you know. So what was weird was this melody really stuck to me, and I'm like, I can't get rid of this damn thing. So it was the first time I can recall I had a melody. Whereas I'll have a riff and I'll sit there for days like, okay, what can I do with it? I always think, if somebody were to sing over a tune, who would it be and how would it sound? So I might be thinking Robert Plant for one thing, I might be thinking Rob Halford for another. That's just how my mind works. But with this, it's like I was playing a jazz riff, and now I have to write a metal tune around it. And what's so funny is when I was recording the rhythm parts in the studio, and I'm like, God, this is, to my ears, the most basic thing I've ever written. But when you put the melody on top, it sounds more complex than it is. And my fear was people are going to hear this and say, where are you going? Are you trying to be hair metal? I'm like, well, no, but I stayed out of the way. I let the song unfold in front of me, and that's why people liked it, because I let it happen. But, more often than not, the riff comes first.
And, that is it's a great song.
Thank you.
I don't know, I can't say it enough. It always sounds better when things just kind of naturally fit together.
Yeah.
If you try to rush it or push it, it's just going to sound like crap.
Yeah.
Now, where can people buy your CDs or find you online?
Well, as far as buying the CD, you can definitely go on cdbaby.com, and you can look up, it would come up as Steve Bello Band 1. It comes up, that's the number they gave me. So, there's little subgenres, for some reason they put me under the virtuoso category, which is a lie, but you can look me up under rock, metal, instrumental, and you'll find it. And you can also download it on iTunes. You can download it on, I want to say Rhapsody. You can get it through Amazon. There's still some hard copies left. But more people, the initial batch of hard copies that I had, I sold out really fast. And now more people are downloading, especially people overseas. I've noticed I've moved some downloads over in Japan and one guy in the Philippines, and I'm like, okay, this is pretty neat. It's that far-reaching, and I'm like, you know what? It's just, it is what it is. Yeah, it's reaching people, which I think is really cool. But right now everybody's going to CD, baby.
I'm gonna do a little nose rubbing. I'm glad we got our hard copy. The autographed hard copy. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Steve.
Are you currently working on another CD, by the way?
The only thing I did recently recording, the song I did with T.M. Stevens that's going to be played on the Ace over in Germany. But outside of that, my own tunes, I've got, like I said, a bunch of ideas. But when everybody's schedules meet up and we can all sit down and I'll say, all right, these are the ideas, let's run with them. And, that's just how I work. I can't force it.
Yeah, don't force it. It sounds so much better when it's not forced.
Yes.
And where can people find information for the band, like Facebook or places like that?
Well, let's see. I've had my MySpace the longest, and I know not too many people go on there anymore, but, I've had my MySpace, it's going to be 10 years, something like that. No, 9 years. MySpace.com/Steve Bello. Facebook, my personal page is Facebook.com/Stevie himself. The music page, for some reason, sometimes it doesn't load up. I don't know why, but it's Facebook.com/Steve Bello. You can also find it on PureVolume.com. You can find it on Reverb Nation is another one. Just find me. Google me. Whatever works.
Hit him up, people. Hit him up.
Yeah, thank you.
Now, with your Facebook page, you also have a Reverb Nation page attached to that, correct?
Yeah, it should. If you're on my personal Facebook page and you go under info, if I'm not mistaken, it'll have links for other places. Ibanez.com, WorleyPedals.com. I should have a Pure Volume and a Reverb Nation. If I don't, I can just kick those out really quick. But I'm also on a site that I admit I hardly been going on, is ShareMyGuitar.com. I do have a Twitter account, but I never go on it. Lady Gaga's got 25 million viewers who wants to talk to me, so I don't even go on there. But MySpace, Facebook, go on CD Baby, download my CD. You'll thank me for it, and life will be good.
And Dee is throwing up your all your URLs right now. She's got your Facebook page, your Ibanez, DR Strings.
Thank you, Dee.
Thank you, Dee. No pink eye for you tonight. You're safe.
Yeah, buy her coffee for me.
Now, anything else that you'd like to share with the audience?
I'm a size 9 shoe. Let's see. Oh, not that kind of information, but I like my coffee black, 3 sugars.
There you go, Dee. Coffee black, 3 sugars. Bring it.
Yeah. Sometimes I drink fresh vanilla, but but in all seriousness, I think it's very mind blowing that I've spent a long time trying to get my music heard, and it's only been in the recent year, a little over a year, that people are gravitating towards, and it's really cool. I do appreciate everybody's support. I kind of have to quote Joe Satriani. He said it the best. I'm going to kind of paraphrase him. He said I get paid to play a lot of notes. And I kind of feel that way. He makes more money than I do, but but the money's not the issue. Believe me, I'm just being funny here. But it's interesting that I'm playing this style of music that, if you say it's unique and somewhat different, a little off axis, that's totally cool. But the fact that here I am creating this really esoteric kind of music and people are digging it, that speaks volumes. Because, like I said, there's so many bands out there that are deserving of attention, and there's just so many bands out there, period. And for me to slip through the cracks and then people go, I have to have this album. I'm like, wow, it brings me back to, like when Ingve's first album came out, I would run to Mickey Music and buy it because I had to have it. And I want people to have that feeling whenever I release something, like, I gotta get this. And that's really all I ask for. It's just like, just dig the music. It's all about the music of me.
Well, whenever we first got in contact with each other last year, me and Buffy both, we had that same feeling. We had to have that disc. There was no two ways about it. We got to be able to listen to it in the car. We've got to be able to have our neighbors enjoy it with us when we crank up the stereo.
Yeah, that's the best way they can appreciate it,
But it is really an exceptional album, and it's very refreshing hearing someone doing what you're doing instrumentally. I've always been a fan of the instrumentals when Maiden put them out, Metallica, whoever. I love Surfing with the Alien because it's all instrumental.
Oh yeah.
And I'm just a huge fan of that. And when I heard yours, it stood out. Like I said, I liken it to these people, but you have your own sound. The band has its own sound. And you cut your own vibe through the mix, and it's really awesome.
Cool, man. Really cool.
And all you people listening, you need to go and buy this and support your starving musicians.
Yeah, I have to put his son through high school, so.
Feed Steve. He's dying over there.
He's got to feed his kitty.
He's got kitties to feed, too.
Yeah, Linus, come on. Linus has more fans than I do.
And how is Linus doing, by the way?
My friend Sandy, she did some photos at Starland, and she's a cat lover like I am. And every time I put a picture of Linus up, she goes, Linus! And she's like, you gotta start a fan page. I'm like, no, you have to start the fan page, so.
And
I love cats, and I've been a cat fan since I was 7, and when my aunt brought home this little gray kitten named Dusty, and that was it. My heart melted right to the floor. I'm like, that's it. I just love cats. And, I'm very fortunate that, my wife and my kids are animal lovers, especially cat lovers. And, I want to let everybody know that my daughter, she's 13 now, she loves helping at this adoption thing called Felines in Need, because that's where we adopted Linus from last year. And the women that run the agency, they love her. And
that is really awesome.
Whenever we go to Petco, just like, can we borrow Emma for an hour? I'm like, yeah, I'll go to the pizza place, have fun, you know. And everybody loves her because, you know, she's a natural charmer. And she's like, I'm going to try to get these kids to go to homes. I'm like, you do that, you know. And, you know, I'm very fortunate that I have a family that really looks out for animals, and, you know, especially cats, so.
Like I told you, man, we have Wild Kingdom over here, and I'm living with 2 cat ladies, basically. And, you know, we've basically, we didn't adopt them, they adopted us. All the neighborhood cats, you know, a lot of people have left them behind, and so they hang out on our porch. We have, like 7 cats, I think, that hang on the porch.
Wow.
Plus the 2 that live inside, plus the 4 dogs. And plus the 2 women. I have lots of pets.
I just have the one cat, you know, and you know, he can be a handful at times, but he's such a joy to have around the house, you know.
I love the pictures you post up of him. He looks like he's a handful.
Yeah, he's one of those cats. I mean, he goes from 0 to psycho in a second, you know. And, but, you know, every morning it's the best. He scratches at the door, and I open the door, and he rubs up against my ankles, and then he bites my ankles, and that means he wants to be fed. So I was like, okay, just use my alarm clock.
Nothing says love like a little pain, right?
No. That's why I'm in the music industry, so.
Love
Yeah, a little pain, you know, but, I guess, you know, to be honest, I guess just to wrap it up, I know you got the last song to play, but I do thank you and Buffy and Deanna for letting me bore you all to death for a couple hours, and I'm sure your listeners feel the same way, like, okay, please get him off the air. But,
that is totally not the case, Steve. It's been a delight having you. Thank you for, you know, taking time out of your busy schedule to come talk to us, man. We really appreciate
that's
it.
cool, man.
You know,
It's always a pleasure, and anytime, man, you know, and keep doing what you're doing, man.
I appreciate that, and you know, same with you. You're always welcome back here. You know, if you ever want to come back and do some bullshitting with the Bobster, man, you're always welcome, brother.
I could do that, man.
Right on. Well, we're going to go ahead and I guess wrap her on up, and we're going.
Yeah.